Sue is in Chelmsford, who wants to get on the air. Sue, you're very, very welcome to the programme. You've given us a call on 0344 499 1000. Sue, what point would you like to make?
Well, it's about the Red Sea and the attack on the Houthis, or the Yemen rather.
Yes.
I think it comes from a very incompetent and naive foreign policy. Why, when the UK has just started bombing yet another Middle Eastern country, Rishi Sunak has rushed off to the Ukraine? I mean, it reminds me of Boris Johnson rushing off to the Ukraine during Partygate, but that's another matter. This, like a lot of your callers and texters have said, it comes down to net zero. If we're going to dismantle our own secure energy supplies because of net zero, we have to have a suitable foreign policy. I mean, if you're going to rely on foreign imports, you have to have a suitable foreign policy. Sanctions against Russia, imposed by Liz Truss as Foreign Secretary, all the oil and gas prices shot up, absolute chaos. Now we're relying on Qatar for our LPG and making ourselves vulnerable to the Yemeni Houthis. I mean, what nonsense is this? And we've got no secure energy supplies of our own.
It's not just about energy, though, Sue. Obviously, energy is a massive element of this, and you're absolutely right to point it out. But it's about goods and about those shipping containers coming through as well. And is this a conflict that we can actually control in any way? Obviously, we're striking the Houthis, but I mean, we're really relying on America as well, and other nations. There are about 11 or 12 nations, I think, that are part of this coalition to actually get the job done, or attempt to get the job done, in terms of pushing back the Houthi rebels.
I agree with it. I agree with you that it is partly to do with imports, etc. But we can't even get enough people to join the Navy, to man the ships for them. I mean, what are we doing? We need to negotiate these things. I mean, personally, I don't think it is orchestrated by Iran. This might be a bit of an unusual outlook. I think the Houthis and Hamas are concerned because Iran and Saudi Arabia are actually trying to reconcile. There's been a reconciliation deal between them. And I think they feel a bit out on a limb because Iran is actually withdrawing from them. I think it's, personally, that's what I think is happening.
OK, Sue, stay on the line. I want to get quick thoughts from Charlie and Andy, and then I promise I'll come back to you, Sue, before the top of the hour. So just stay where you are. Charlie, what do you make of what Sue has said there?
I think that the presumption that it could be funded by Iran is widespread. I think a lot of people see Iran as a problem. However,
they've certainly helped the Houthis in some way. They may not be exactly behind it, but we'll probably never know.
No, you probably won't ever know. No, you're right. I think that what she said about the Royal Navy, though, being underfunded and not being able to get the staff there is a very important point. And the correlation with what's going on in the Red Sea and the Prime Minister going to Ukraine on the same day, I think that is to cover up a few things there, really. I mean, there's lots going on the same day.
But certainly, maybe not in the Ukraine situation, although I think it is linked to our national security a little bit. But certainly, the Prime Minister and the Foreign Secretary would say that attacking the Houthi rebels is not just about what's happening in the region, it's about the security and the domestic security and trade in regard to the UK. It's not just about a regional conflict.
You could say that, but then you look at the timing of the attack as well when Israel are in the International Court of Justice. I find that all the stories now are going to be about the attack in the Red Sea, and no one's looking at Israel and the war that's going on and what they're...
Well, we're going to look at that tomorrow. I want a quick thought from Andy just on what Sue was saying there, and then I want to go back to Sue.
I think it is directly in our interest to get involved. 60% of China's exports to Europe go through that part of the Red Sea. It is directly in our interest to intervene when they're firing on shipping routes, when they're firing on Royal Navy ships. I think just on that point, it's not that the Navy are understaffed. That's not true. They just didn't have enough people in that area on that day.
Do you think our military's big enough?
I think it's been downsizing because war is changing. We're not fighting the same wars as we did a century ago. We're looking more at cyber, more at drone warfare. It requires less men.
It's a fair point. Sue, what do you make of what both gents have said there?
Well, I think that war is changing, but why are we participating in war at all? I mean, the whole geopolitical situation in the world is moving towards China and Russia. China, to be honest, does not fight wars. What they do is they trade. Why can't we be doing the same?
So you have an incredible knowledge of international affairs. Have you just always been interested in it?
Oh, all my life, yes.
Okay, no, honestly, you really have a lot of knowledge. There's a lot of there's just, sorry, I don't mean to be patronising, but there's a lot you know.
Oh well, I always think about it. I constantly think about it, to be honest, and read stuff and always have since being a child, really.
Excellent. Well, thanks for your call, and ring in any time, whether it's on international affairs or anything else. Thank you. Great call there. Clive in Arundel says, I know we have massive oil and gas reserves in the North Sea, the Falklands and Morocco, not least because I've invested in these areas for years. The sooner we get producing on all these areas to secure our energy supplies, the better. Pete says, I never thought I'd feel like this, but after generations of huge involvement abroad, financially, militarily, and just generally taking responsibility constantly beyond our borders, look where we are now. I think it's time to bring everything back home and effectively shut up shop as far as possible until such time as our own house is in order. Sounds simplistic, but current methods are not working. A radical party would get my vote, and I'm sure many other people's votes too. Interesting. Isolationism. Could that work? I'm not sure it could in our current situation. I'm going to give Annie MacDonald back his pen. I'm going to say thank you very much to him. He's a trade unionist, and also to Charlie Sansom, who is a political commentator.